meeting. All checks and carry on is subject to search.
Classified.
I'm not on the speaker.
Look, guys, I wish you guys well. I'm going to go in an elevator, and I'm going to go to my car, and I'm going to go home. So, not a drag queen in Brazil, guys. I was young, and I had fun at a festival.
And there it is. Turns out that the literal photographic evidence of George Santos in drag in Brazil was too much for even him to deny. Before we move on, here's the resurfaced footage that led to his eventual admission.
Get your hands up high.
And just to be sure, a Twitter user layered images of George Santos over his drag alter ego, Guitarra Ravache, and you'll notice that his teeth and chin line up perfectly. Now let's be clear about something right off the bat. It is okay that George Santos did drag. He said it himself, he was just having fun. And that's fine. I've been to God knows how many drag shows, they are a good time. The problem here isn't that George Santos dressed up in drag. The problem is the abject hypocrisy of George Santos advocating for a party that demonizes LGBT rights. Here he is pushing for trans Americans to walk away from the Democratic Party and toward the Republican Party. The same party, mind you, that's currently responsible for terrorizing trans students, suggesting that drag shows are a means of, quote, grooming children, and equating LGBT rights with sexualizing kids.
So my name is Anthony DeVolder. I'm a New York City resident. I've recently founded a group called United for Trump, so if you guys want to follow, that would be awesome. My question's directed for both Blair and Brandon. Well, Brandon's an idol to all of us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But Blair, I have a question. How do you think that as a trans woman and a conservative, you can help educate other trans people from not having to follow the narrative that the media and the Democrats put forward? And how can Brandon incorporate that into Walkaway in more in depth? That's my question.
And look, that's not to say that there are no gay Republicans, because there are, but there is a reason that the vast majority of members of the LGBT community are on the left, and that's because they know that only one party even recognizes their very humanity, and it's not the GOP. And here he is defending Florida's bigoted Don't Say Gay law, which prevents teachers in classrooms from even acknowledging the existence of LGBT Americans.
Hey everyone, George Santos here, congressional candidate in New York's 3rd Congressional District. Let's talk real quick about the Florida bill, Don't Say Gay. Although the bill doesn't mention those words, that's what the left-leaning Democrats and progressives are labeling it. I'll leave you with this. As a gay man, I stand proudly behind not teaching our children sex or sexual orientation. That's incumbent on the parents, not educators. DeSantis, you have my full-blown support, and I support your decision to protect our children's innocence. I stand proudly behind the Florida legislature for putting a decent bill that will protect values.
So I get that George Santos thinks he's breaking out of the partisan mold, but all he's done is offered himself up as a useful idiot for Republicans to have plausible deniability about their homophobia. Now they can point to him and say, see, how could we be homophobic if there's literally a gay Republican within our ranks? And to be clear, George Santos benefits too. He knows that he can leverage that token position to get himself the attention that he's obviously desperate for, meaning that both the party and Santos himself profit from this arrangement. And at the end of the day, a cornerstone of the Republican Party is leveraging whatever tools are at your disposal to help yourself and your grip on power. Another cornerstone of the Republican Party is that these people will embrace something when it's convenient for them and demonize it when they have to toe the party line. Kari Lake, failed Republican gubernatorial candidate in Arizona, did the exact same thing. She was an outspoken fan of drag, even hosting drag parties at her own home with children present when she wasn't running for office and didn't need to pander to outright bigots for their votes. But when she was the Republican nominee, well, she started airing ads featuring outspoken homophobes and started tweeting platitudes attacking drag queens. These people will embrace queer culture when it benefits them and then attack it once they want to gain power within a party that has a zero-tolerance policy for anyone who's not straight, white, and Christian. And let's be clear, the end goal here for Republicans isn't just the bigotry, although that's clearly a welcome result as far as they're concerned. The end goal is a legislative ban on LGBT Americans. Remember, Texas's Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton said he is, quote, willing and able to defend a Texas law that bans gay people from having sex in their own homes if the Supreme Court reconsiders its 2003 Lawrence versus Texas decision that overturned the law. So when we see Republicans try to normalize the vilification of drag queens or trans students or any other ordinary iteration of queer life in society, it shouldn't be viewed as an isolated incident. The end goal here is not to just ban drag shows. It's not to just ban gay marriages. It's not to just ban the acknowledgement of LGBT Americans in classrooms. The end goal here is to criminalize and ultimately erase queer culture from American culture. So when George Santos walks into his little anti-LGBT Republican events and idolizes these provocateurs whose life goal is to hurt the LGBT community, he is using his platform, which is not insignificant now, to hurt the very community that he claims to be a part of. The same community that he enjoyed when he was younger, admitting himself, quote, I was young and had fun at a festival. If George Santos had his way, no other people who are young and want to have fun would be able to do exactly what he did, because he's used his platform to align himself with abject homophobes who spent their political capital pushing and passing laws stripping the LGBT community of basic civil rights. At a time when that community is at its most vulnerable in decades, George Santos has decided that he's going to side with the oppressors. And if you think that I'm being hard on George Santos, if you think that he's just some pathological liar who got in over his head and now found himself in a lot more trouble than he bargained for, just remember that he is using his platform as the first and only elected gay Republican representative in the United States Congress to assist those using their positions of power to hurt the same community that he claims to be a part of. It might seem harmless because he comes across as a fucking idiot, but do not think for a second that him being just one small part of a broader assault on that community's rights is in any way harmless or innocuous. If the LGBT community is suffering death by 1,000 cuts, then each individual cut is as dangerous as the last, and George Santos is absolutely out there holding a knife. So look, we can call on George Santos to resign. He won't. We can call on Kevin McCarthy to call for an expulsion vote. He won't. So most important for us right now is to remember who George Santos is and what he represents. And that is someone who will bring danger and violence to his own community because he thinks it'll help him consolidate power for himself. These people stand for no one other than themselves. And so long as George Santos is in Congress, we should make absolutely sure that we remember that his desperate, pathetic, dangerous pursuit of power isn't an exception in that party, it's the rule. Before you go, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. You can click the thumbnail right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work even further, the best way is to subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. There you can check out my interviews with major players in the world of politics, including President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, Katie Porter, Jamie Raskin, and so many more. Plus other interviews that live exclusively on the podcast. That link is also right here on this screen, or just search No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen wherever you listen to podcasts.